Today is the 11th day of July 2014, and we are at the Integral Yoga Retreat in South Carolina with an old friend I've known for many, many years, Lakshman Seghal, and I welcome you, Lakshman. So nice to have you. Lakshman grew up in the ashram and had much contact with Mother. But I'd like to ask you first, perhaps, could you tell us a little bit about your father and Sri Aurobindo?
Yes. My father was born into an affluent family in Hyderabad. They were landowners. And he had gone for his education to England. He had gotten a government scholarship for education. He had gone to get a degree at Dublin, Ireland, for in agriculture. And while in Europe, he had seeing the poverty and the life around and thinking about, he had a vision of somebody that he saw as the future.
A vision?
A vision, yeah.
I see.
And so when he came back, he used to go to the Raman Maharishi ashram with some family friends. And on one of his visits, Sri Raman Maharishi told him that you need to go to Pondicherry and visit a giant of a man who's sitting there. And that's how my father came to Pondicherry first time and recognized Sri Aurobindo as the person he had a vision of. And he decided that that's where he wanted to raise his children in absolute freedom.
What year was this? That he first saw Sri Aurobindo?
It would be early 40s, I would say.
So how many times did he have his darshan?
I think he was, since 42, I want to say, for 3 years, been seeing Sri Aurobindo every time that there was darshan, and then we moved to the ashrams around April of 1945. So, so we had several visits with Sri Aurobindo, and my father used to make ice cream for him that with whatever fruit, fresh fruit was available in season.
With the old crank machine?
Old crank machine. And I still remember the color of the thermos. The outside had worn out, so it was painted green. And carried to the ashram. And I was told the mother used to give him a small serving of the ice cream. She used to watch Sri Aurobindo's diet rather carefully. So she used to serve him the ice cream, and we used to get comments back about the ice cream. So this thing till he passed away, he was, my dad was making ice cream for him.
And how old were you when your father brought you?
I was 3 year old. And again, I was told that that time they didn't allow toddlers of my age into the ashram, that I was making quite a ruckus under Sri Aurobindo's room, and he asked who was it, and Champaklal bike came down and then reported to Sri Aurobindo that it was me, and so Sri Aurobindo said, let him into the ashram. That's what I was told. So that was the first time I entered the ashram building.
Do you remember meeting Sri Aurobindo, even at that young age?
What I remember very, very distinctly, it was hard to miss as an 8-year-old when Sri Aurobindo was in Samadhi, and we were going around going past his body. I remember touching his feet at one of those trips, and it felt like soft butter, and the color of the body was very, it almost felt like it was lice underneath the bed. It was impossible to miss even for an 8-year-old. It was just quite amazing, and you could, that was even clearer because on the 4th day, you could see that the skin color had come back to a normal human skin, and you could see some discoloration on his face.
You say light. Was it a golden light that you saw or a white light?
It's my memory is more a white light, more a white light, and it would be like if you had thrown fluorescent light, kind of, it's just emanating in his body.
And then Mother took you into the ashram, and how did your education proceed?
When we moved, there were maybe 4 or 5 families that had come with children. So at that time, Mother decided that since we have children in the ashram, we need to start a school. So that's when the school started, and used to be in what is the playground now. That was the school building, where you have the gymnasium, and that used to be classrooms. And it was in 1951 December, I think, that the current school, Center of Education, was opened by the Mother. And the picture of that opening, I am standing next to her, short kid with the half-sleeve shirt hanging out. So.
Now, you had told me a few things about your meetings with Mother. Could you tell us about the time in the playground with the ground nuts and also with your gymnastics?
Yes, but before I say that, there's one important experience with the Mother that I would like to share with you.
Please.
We were in a French class, and our French instructor was Bharati Di. And so she had set up a debate. The debate was between the merits, pros and cons of athletics versus gymnastics. And I used to do both, and I was pretty good at both of them. But I was put on the side where I had to support the benefits of athletics, track and field, over gymnastics, which I did, I guess, fairly well, because one of my classmates after the class went to Pranab and told Lakshman was saying this and Lakshman was saying that about gymnastics. So Pranab must have gone and told the Mother about it. So that, and I used to pick up tennis balls for the Mother when she played tennis. So I was standing in my usual position, my brother and I, and Sunil used to be there also, almost like our supervisor. And I'm standing there, Mother walks in, and as she comes to me, she grabs me by one hand and pulls me to one side and gave me a scolding of my life. And she told me things that were not historically true. That I was a skinny, scrawny kid in gymnastics that made me what I was, and all that kind of stuff. So I was quite upset as a teenager, a young teenager, upset to furious.
That Mother had said that to
Mother
you.
had said that, and how could she say that to me? And so the following day, we had a soccer game with one of the outside teams, and I was on the soccer team. And the ritual was that before the Mother left for the tennis ground, we would gather in the ashram garage, and as she was getting into the car, she could acknowledge us, So I purposefully stood at the very back, trying to avoid her glance, because I was still pretty upset with what she had said. And then, to my dismay at the moment, she caught my eyes, and in a flash, all of that anger, everything disappeared. It was quite amazing experience.
She didn't speak to you. She
No,
just
she
looked at you.
just looked at me and a smile, and that was that totally cleared my head of any thoughts I had of any kind. That was quite.
So when you were in school, did you write to Mother? Did you have questions and put them to her?
Well, what we had was several levels of interaction. She used to have classes for us in the guest house next to the playground, the house where Aurobindo first lived. In the courtyard downstairs, she used to have a class. We were in what they call the green group, so we were in elementary school equivalent. And so she used to give dictation in French, and we would write it down, and then she'd take each one's book and correct her spelling. Then there was a period of time when we wrote diaries. We wrote what we'd done during the day and she would send it to her, and she would, beside correcting her French, make some comments or say blessings, So that was also happened. So there was that level of interaction through writing. I always say I wish I had more intelligence when I was around her to ask her the questions that I have now. But you were so taken in around her physical presence, that you just tried to do your very best at whatever she was witnessing to make her proud of you.
So in the playground, you were telling me about, did Mother ask you to do some, or you did some gymnastics?
Yeah, when Jawaharlal Nehru, Prime Minister of India, visited the ashram in Pondicherry for the first time, so she had organized a program for him in the playground, and she had selected me to do gymnastics and tumbling acts in front of the Prime Minister Nehru. So the picture I saw recently of Nehru sitting next to the mother, Indira Gandhi, and Kamraj Nader, and the other, and Indira Gandhi, that picture reminds me of me performing in front of them. I think it's 56.
Who were your peers in school?
I had my classmates, let me start with my classmates.
Yes.
My classmates and one of my dearest friends was Norman Dawson's son. We were bosom buddies, we hung out together, did all kinds of stuff together. The other, who was junior to me, but we were good friends, was Vijay Poddar and Ajit Sumeda's brother, and Kukku Aster's brother. Because Aster used to live right next to the main school building those days. So Indra Sen and his family used to live right next to the ashram school. And so after school, we used to go to the place and hang out with Aster and her family.
Was it Ajit Sarkar you're
Right,
referring to?
Ajit Sarkar, yeah.
Okay, because he did an interview with us also.
Yes. Ajit Sarkar was a very creative captain, and a lot of the 2nd December drills and everything he used to organize. He also, with my tumbling that I used to do, he used to sort of choreograph it. So he was a significant contributor to all the 2nd December demonstrations that we used to have.
And what other teachers did you have whom you were especially fond of?
Manoj Dasgupta, he was my math teacher, and was very fond of him because outside the school premises we played tennis against each other in the tennis matches, and played basketball together. We were when we had matches against outside teams, I used to be on the ashram team along with Manoj. So, and other people I associated closely with, obviously I was fond of, was Kittu Reddy and Prabhakar Reddy in the Bhatti.
Yes.
In ashram as Bhatti, and Mona Sarkar, all people that I grew up with, and with them as a role models. The unique part of growing up in the ashram was the fact that you had an extended family of 1,500 people that you could relate relate to different ages, different times of a day, or different times of your life. So there may be teachers in the morning, and you're playing tennis with them in the afternoon, or competing with them in the evening on some sport or other. So, like with Manoj Dasgupta, we were the two finalists in a high jump one time. So it was that kind of thing. I used to play. I used to go. I love tennis, so I used to go before mother came. 3 o'clock, I used to go, and sometimes Chandubai, he started the corner house. He used to come out and hit with me. Abhay Singh would come out and hit with me. Nirod Baran would come out and hit with me. One of the tips that Nirod Baran gave me playing tennis, I still remember when I play. He says, don't try to hit the ball low, hit the ball high and deep. And you see now, when you see the top players, they try to hit the ball high and deep, keep the opponent behind the baseline. So that's the tip I got from Nirod Baran, who also was my English teacher.
What were your favorite subjects?
I would say my favorite subjects were more outside the school than inside the school. I was, as people used to tell me, I learned to run before I learned to walk. And Ravindraji used to tell that I would be running between people's feet, because I was relatively short, and to get in front of a crowd, I would run between feet, So that was good. But I had teachers that were incredibly, from kindergarten, I had incredibly patient teachers. I had Babita, the English lady, who was my teacher in elementary, first grade or second grade, I think. Later on, I had Ranjit, Ajit Sarkar's brother, was an incredibly patient man. The other one that I gave a hard time but was very fond of me was Kalyanda. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he used to teach geography. And he had traveled, so he used to tell us about his trips to Europe and other parts of the world. But I used to be naughty, so he used to put me sitting next to his chair, facing the class rather than me facing him. But it was because they were all like part of family. They treated us as family. They didn't think about punishment, just being kind and find ways to keep our attention. It was quite, thinking back was quite an experience.
Well, Lakshman, I have so many more questions for you. I guess the first one is your interaction or remembrances of people like Nalini, Amrita, Narad Baran, Sunil. Could you tell us a bit about them?
Yeah, both Amrita Da, as it's called him, or Nalini Da, because they've seen me from the cradle, literally. They had and Champaklav, all every time they ran across them, they were always kind, patting me on the head. Champaklav always had this inimicable, broad smile and hug, So, and Nirad Baran, besides being, had more interaction with him because he was also my English teacher, So I had closer interaction with him. But Nalini had an aura, one of calmness and serenity that was almost made you feel you had to behave in his presence. He had a calming effect on me, I would say. Amrita Da was more relaxed and somewhat more approachable kind of, So it was easy for me to run into and out of the meditation hall into his office, and meet with him. Nirad Baran used to often come, would be invited to our house for lunch, as would Purani. And Purani is another one I was quite close to because he loved ping pong. And so I used to play ping pong with him. The days we had gymnastics, the thing didn't start till about 5:30. So between 5 and 5:30, after mother was done with the tennis, I'd go to and play ping pong with Buraniji. He was, like a dynamo, so full of energy, jumping around, it was fun playing with him.
How did you fare against him?
I would like to think or remember that I beat him most of the time, but I won't swear on it.
Would you share some of your experiences with Mother when you went up to see her, or the various darshans, terrace darshan, balcony darshan? Anything that you'd like to share with us we'd be so grateful to hear it.
Yes. I feel my connection with her. My connection with her was through physical education, because I used to be pretty good at both gymnastics and track and field, and she witnessed all of those competitions when we had gymnastics or track and field. So it was through that I got a lot of smiles. And there's a time when I was doing track and field and I was doing the triple jump, the hop step jump, it's called. And I had taken off almost a foot behind the line. So when Arun Kumar, who was the one who was to do the measurement, was measuring from the actual line I'm supposed to take off from, Mother let him do that, but then Mother asked him to measure from the point I had taken off, disregarding where I should have taken off it, because she wanted to know how far actually I had jumped. So she was more absorbed and focused, like it's your parents wouldn't have quite that focus that she had. And every time I won an event, that evening when she was distributing, the period that she used to distribute peanuts in little bags, she would give me 2 bags instead of the usual one, so, with a big smile. I remember one time, as I said earlier, I used to just run around. I never walked, and I was running from my house, which was across the street from the ashram, and a bicyclist came by that I didn't see, so I just jumped over the bicycle and landed and scraped my knee. So that evening when we were going to the mother for the distribution, she asked me, what happened to your knee? So I spoke in my perfect French, says, "J'ai knocké mon genou." Knocké is not a word, but I made it up, So she was laughing heartily, But she knew what had happened, but I hadn't coined a new word for her that she enjoyed it. There was another time I woke up in the morning and my lip was all puffed up. So after the morning darshan, that's to be usually around 6:15, and then she used to see some people around 7:30 upstairs. I ran up to her floor and showed her my lip, and that table, that desk is still, it's a higher, it's not a desk, it's a counter kind of with drawers, it's still there in that room. She opened the drawer and she had some kind of balm or ointment. She took it out and applied it on my lip, and blessed me, and then I took off, But it was, we spent more time with her than with her parents. And that was, in those days, the mother had made it clear that she didn't want her children to be corrupted by their parents, in a sense. So she took full charge. She told my father, your children are my responsibility. Other incident I can tell you that relates to my father. 1956, when she announced the descent of the supramental consciousness, she wanted to distribute the university symbol in the playground. And she asked my father to have them made. So it so happened that a couple of months before that, from some settlement, sale of property in Hyderabad, my father got some money from that sale. And then when my father got these symbols made to mother's specifications, and the bill for that work was exactly the amount that he had gotten in his property settlement. So that money came in timely fashion for that purpose.
Tell me, what did you feel when you when you were older and attended the balcony darshan? Did you also go to the terrace darshan?
Yes, I think the most of my visit were at the balcony darshan. There were very few, I think, because she was still coming. The time that she had stopped when her health didn't permit it, but then she resumed in the balcony. The terrace darshan, I think, happened maybe after I left, or close to the time I left. But I would like to share my experience of when I decided to come here for further studies.
And tell us about the studies that you wanted to do here and what you had achieved in knowledge. And
I'd finished my, what they call the program through knowledge, through higher course. And then I was teaching math in the ashram school. This is 10 or 11-year-olds. That was an interesting incident related to that. There was a young boy at that time, Kabul, that was in one of the other teachers' class, and she wrote to the mother saying that I'm unable to control Kabul. This is disrupting my class, what should I do? So mother told her to transfer him to Lakshman's classroom. So the following day, I have Kabul in my class, and another child, Santikar. And so the first day, and the classroom was in what's the ashram laboratory building, and the classroom was right next to the guest house that Aurobindo used to live in, and there is a courtyard with the slide there. And so when I start the class, Kabul starts, I assume, his usual disruptive practices. So as a teacher, I thought I have to impose my authority. So I warned him once, and I didn't have any effect. I warned him a second time, and then after that I told him to leave the classroom, which he did. But he went around, and he was in that outside the window of the classroom, in that sandbox. And now I had the whole class looking at him and enjoying his antics and totally ignoring me. So he had won that first round, as I say. That was an important lesson, though. So the following day, I said, this is not going to work. I'm not going to be able to force my authority on him. So I told the class that I have other responsibilities, and therefore I may be sometimes late coming to the class. So I'm going to, I would like to appoint a monitor that will make sure that everybody is seated, by the time I come, make sure they're not making noise so that they're not disrupting other classes. So I said, we'll take turns, and everyone will be monitored for a month. I said, I made Kabul the first monitor, and it worked wonders. He instantly assumed that responsibility, and later on there were times when I used to go to Madras with my dad for some ashram work, and I would tell Kabul in the playground the previous evening that kind of stop by my place, I'll give you some problems that you'll put on the board, and then you collect all the papers from the students and bring it back. And did that several times, and every time without fail. Kabul did that, and I never heard any complaint from anybody that there was noise from that classroom that was disrupting anybody else. And that time it was in the main ashram school building I was doing this. And till this day we have bonded. So every time I go to Pondicherry, his mom, for one, was very grateful to me for forming that bond with him. And every time I go to Pondicherry, Kabul finds out and he comes looking for me. This is now 50 years later. So I take that as a mother knowing that I may have kids someday. And it taught me that you cannot impose your authority on children. You have to find ways to communicate with them and find other ways than authority. And I think I've tried both, Hansa, and I've tried to follow that philosophy with our children, is that we try to keep them as our friends. And we have both told our children that as parents we will make mistakes. And what we hope is that as you grow and become parents, you will not repeat our mistakes. You may make fresh mistakes as far as your kids are concerned, but you won't repeat our mistakes. So that lesson with Kabul has served me well the rest of my life, I'd say.
So tell us now, let's pick up when you wanted to further your studies outside the ashram.
Yeah. I asked mother that I'd like to pursue further education and go abroad. So she sent her blessings, so she approved. And then shortly thereafter, when I saw her, she said, find me a way of preserving cheese at room temperature. So since I was thinking of applying for studies abroad, I took that to mean that I should pursue something in plastic technology, so I can learn about wrapping and all that, so that I can fulfill her request. So now I apply in the program, graduate program in plastic technology, PhD program, and I get admission from London University and Illinois Institute of Technology in Chicago and University of Akron. So the admission came from the chemistry department at the Illinois Institute of Technology. And I decided, and she had agreed, that I should go to America rather than London.
Mother agreed?
Yeah. So she
What year was this, Lakshman?
This was 1964. So when the admission came from the chemistry department, I go to the Reserve Bank of India in Madras looking for foreign exchange. In those days, you had to get the Reserve Bank approval before you could get your rupees converted to dollars. So when I go there, the Reserve Bank officer says, well, we can give you dollars for this. You're going to the chemistry department, you should apply to Indian University. So I didn't know what to do. So I go to the USIS library in Madras, and I find a catalog of the Illinois Institute of Technology. So I open up and I look at the curriculum for the Department of Chemistry, and they had one course listed for polymer chemistry. So I take that catalog to the Reserve Bank officer and I tell him, see, this is why I got the admission from the chemistry department, because here they have a course in polymer chemistry. So the degree in plastic technology is coming out of the chemistry department. So he accepted that, and I got the foreign exchange. So now I come to the States and go to the chemistry department, and they say, "Who gave you admission?" We never had a program in plastic technology. It never existed at our school, so I don't know how you got admission in the school. They said we need to change our screening process so this mistake does not happen again. But so they had a professor there that was teaching polymer chemistry, and I was thinking I was going to stay with him. But the following year, after 2 semesters, he decided to leave and move to another school. So he referred me to the biology department, somebody he knew there. So now I'm nonplussed, I'm confused. I said, I have to do this for mother, and now I'm having to go to the biology department. So I write to the mother. We got totally confused, and I used to write to the mother fairly often. But most of the time, by the time I got a response, whatever issue I had is just to resolve by itself. But this time I was confused, so I insisted that she send me a response in writing.
Mm.
So she wrote back saying, I did not mean that you have to, it was a casual question, I did not mean that you have to pursue a degree in plastic technology. She says, don't disregard that, she said.
Mm.
So that's when I realized that if she had not planted that, I would have never been able to pursue my program. It's because of that plastic technology that she was able to orchestrate my coming to the States.
So from 1964 until 1973, did you correspond with Mother?
Yes. One last thing on my departure. So I go to see her the day before I'm leaving, and so she says, "Oh, you're leaving me." So I said, "No, bring me back." So it was touching. I think she wanted me to go, yet she felt she was letting her child go away from her. But I also realized since coming here that the physical contact that I had growing up with her was almost like a barrier to forming a deeper understanding of her, a deeper contact with her. Because we are so engulfed with seeing her every couple hours for something or other that your focus was just on the physical connection with her. And the rest of it was sort of lost. So this physical separation from her was to me very important, and creating that deeper understanding and appreciation of who she was.
Can you tell us a little bit about your birthdays and when you went to Mother for birthdays? And
Yeah.
also afterwards, when you were here, the birthday cards from Mother.
Without fail, we got birthday card from her when we had our first child, Narad, born in December of '71. We had Hansa and I had sent a request for her to pick a name for our first child. So Mother, in her own handwriting, wrote Narad, and she spelled it Niraj. her spellings have been unique both for my name as well as Neeraj. My name, most people will spell it Laxman. She spelled it Lakshman, Lakshman. And that's how I always spell it since. And she named her son, first son Neeraj, Niraj, and we still have the card in her own handwriting with his name on it.
Did you and Hansa write to her together at any time?
Yeah, when I came to this country 22 months before Hansa joined me, and when Hansa decided to join me, she wrote to the mother asking mother's permission. And a few years before then, her brother who lives in London had asked her to join him and get education, further education in London. And when Hansa wrote to the mother asking her if she could go to London, mother wrote back I think in red, "I certainly will not let you go."
In red ink?
Red ink, yeah. Mm-hmm. And then in 1966, when Hansa was going to join me, when she wrote to the mother about her coming here and us getting married, mother said my blessings and asked her to come up to her. And she gave Hansa a ring for both of us. So we were married by her. So when I wrote to her about the marriage ceremony, all of that, she says, "I'm not familiar what is available in America. You don't have to worry about that, my blessings are with you." So that's how we were married.
When did you go back to the ashram after your studies?
The first time we went back was in 1970. And when I went back, a couple of things that we took back for her. One at that time was very popular, was what they call the lava light. You had this wax that floated up with the heat and came down. We'd taken that and some French perfume bottles for her. So when we went, we took that back with us for her, So every visit we went. Then 72, we went back with Neeraj, our son, who was 8 months old at that time, and we were able to take him upstairs to her room and visit with her. And
what month in 72?
This was August of 72. And so we took Neeraj up there. He was 8 months old, so he had a couple of teeth, in his mouth, and mother stretched her hand out and put her thumb out, and Neeraj took it in his mouth and, like toddlers, bit down on her thumb, So she had an ouch and a cute smile,
Well, tell us, in 71, when you went to see Mother? Was it? You went upstairs?
In 70.
70.
Yes,
You went upstairs to her room?
Yes. Yeah, that was when I left, she was in that in-between room where she used to see people. Mm-hmm. And then when came in 70, went upstairs to her room there, yeah. So yeah, it was always something we look forward to, and we'd ask what we can bring for her. So we always brought perfume or something that she could use. But when she passed away in 1973, when she left the body, I had just started a new job. I'd been at the job maybe 4 or 5 months, and I found out that morning of that day, and I could take a flight that same evening. So I made reservations to take a flight that evening. I was trying to contact my boss, who was the surgeon, and he was out, unable to contact him. But I took off anyway. I had to go. So I left, and I was gone for a couple of weeks. And when I was coming back, I didn't know I would have the job or not, whether my boss would fire me for not informing him and leaving without notice. Because we were in the middle of a research project. I remember we were working with these horseshoe crabs, and used to bleed them for some purposes without killing them. But so we had gotten on these crabs, and they were in the cold room, and somebody had to take care of them. So I was a little concerned that I would be upset that I left for that and took off without informing him. But when I came back, not only he was not upset, he was appreciative of what I had done. When I explained who she was and that he was very, very happy at what I had done rather than being upset. Grace again.
I want to go just back for a few moments and ask if your father ever talked to you about his darshans with Sri Aurobindo. Have he ever mentioned anything?
The other than the fact that he realized the moment he saw him that he was the one that he wanted to raise his children around. And that's why he left family and all the other responsibilities. He was the eldest in a family of 8 children, and his father had passed away. So he was the sole guardian in a sense of the family, being the eldest. So obviously everybody around him was upset at what he was doing, and upset that he was not only not taking his shedding his responsibility, but ruining his children's future, as they said to him. But that was not going to stop him, fortunately for us. And I remember we used to live in the house where Vijay Poddar lives downstairs, and where Himatsika used to live upstairs in the big terrace. That's where we were put up. That was our second house, actually. And at that time, the mother used to hold meditations in the ashram in the evening. So they used to put us to bed, and my mom and dad would go to the ashram for meditation. My father had a unique relationship with the mother. I don't recall, other than his total devotion to both of them, and Sri Aurobindo particularly, he had, like most of us, a closer relationship with the mother. Incidentally, his birthday is also the 21st of February. So, and when my father got his car in Pondicherry, this was in 1949, Pondicherry was a free port. So there were maybe half a dozen cars in Pondicherry. Half of them belonged to the French embassy, basically, or the police would have it. So, and because it was a French colony, there were a lot of license paperwork required for getting anything from India. So my father used to drive down to Madras to get license for this or that, from the from the Indian government for the mother. So that kind of worked for her. The evening of December 4th, 1950, my recollection is that forget who it was, whether Udar or somebody else, came to father to ask him if he can drive to Cuddalore to become an oxygen tank for Aurobindo, because the local hospital didn't have any. So this, my guess was, my memory is around 10 o'clock maybe, the night of December 4th. So my father went to Cuddalore, and by the time he came back, he was told it's not necessary. It will not be necessary. So that was about the time that Aurobindo decided to leave his body.
Well, I'll just ask you two more questions, and that is one, whether you had any interaction with Temiben or Sunil.
Yes. With Sunil, I had a very good interaction with Sunil, very memorable, sweetest man. He was my botany teacher. So, and he had an interesting way of running the class. It was unique. I had no other teacher did that. He would have questions for you, and if you answered, you moved up one row, one seat up front. If you had the wrong answer, you moved back one seat, So that's what I did. And then if he had us for botany picking up some algae or something that, we'd go on our bicycle to, first garden, in the pond and pick up stuff for it and bring, and he would put it under the microscope and explain to us what it was, And then on the tennis ground, picking up the tennis balls with mother, he used to be there next to us, my brother and I. So, we got time to chat. He's a very soft-spoken, humble man.
Lakshman, I want to thank you for all you have shared.
Thanks.
And
Pleasure.
It's been wonderful, and I know it will touch the hearts of many people.
Thank you.
Thank you.